Let's make the chevron stitch on the knitting loom. In today's tutorial, we'll knit the Ripple and Ridge Knit Blanket by yarnspirations.com. Welcome back to another Yarnspirations tutorial. I'm your host, Kristen Mangus of GoodKnitKisses. Let's get started. In today's tutorial, you'll need a super bulky number 6 weight yarn. We're using Bernat Beyond in color cream for contrast A. We're using color slate for contrast B, and color pumpkin for contrast C. In today's pattern, we're going to work with the Bernat Ripple and Ridge Knit Blanket by yarnspirations.com. We're making a chevron stitch. Now you can make the chevron stitch in any gauge loom and any gauge yarn. You just want to work with an appropriate yarn to whatever loom that you're going to work with. Today we're working with Bernat Beyond, and you can get that information down in the link below as well as the pattern. Now this Lovey size that I've made over here is made on needles, and you can get the link to that down below in the description. Also, this one is made on the loom and they look the same, and I made them on the 48 peg loom here. You can use 139 stitches on a larger loom with the same gauge and achieve the larger blanket, or you can make a Lovey size. This is 48 pegs. It's a 5/8 inch loom, so you want to measure center peg to get your stitches, and it's either 5/8 or a little bit larger, which is 11/16. So that's a large gauge loom. You're going to need your loom hook or pick, your tapestry needle, wide-eyed tapestry needle. You want to get one that has like a nice large eye to it because of the bulkiness of this yarn. And then you want to also get stitch markers. Now, the stitch markers I've done, you're going to notice that I have them in a pattern. So let's talk about that for a minute. The pattern is that we're going to need a few different colors. So just need 2 colors. We're going to want to get 10 of the blue or your main color, and then 6 of the other color, the alternate, and that's for the Lovey. If you're going to do the larger one, then you're going to want 31 of the blue and 20 of the pink, or whatever your other color is. You can also take a rubber band and go around the 2 that you see so they're in pairs, and then we also come over here and we kind of alternate them. So I'll talk about that in just a moment. All right, so gather your supplies and let's get started. To get your copy of the Ripple and Ridge Knit Blanket pattern, click on the link in the description below. Today we're going to work through cast on, working the first border edge, working the main stitch pattern, changing color, ending the border and binding off, and then weaving in your tails. To get started, grab your contrast A color. For the Lovey, you just need 1 ball of each, and for the blanket, you'll need 7 balls of contrast A and 4 balls of contrast B and C each. Okay, we're ready to start setting up your loom. Now, my loom happens to have all these pegs numbered. It's not necessary. You can mark on your loom instead of using these little stitch markers. I've already got them all the way around the loom here. Now, I've got my blue or your main color stitch markers, and I've got it on peg 5. And then I put on the other color next to it, okay? So whatever your other color is. And then, so you skipped 1, 2, 3, 4, put your main color here and your secondary color here, and then skip 1, 2, 3, 4, and then put 2 of the main color, then skip 1, 2, 3, 4 again, and put your pink and then your blue and your pink. Okay, so whatever opposite colors you have. So pink, blue, pink. Again, skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to do double blue, skip 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have that set of 3 again. Now you can just take, for the set of 2 and the set of 3, you can just take a rubber band and go around all 3 of them, and then you know when I have a set of 3, when I come to this part of the pattern, I'm going to do this thing that Kristen has me do. So that will work too. And then so you're just skipping 4 and then alternating. So we've got the 2, skip 4 and alternate, and then that's the end. Now on the last alternating one, you're actually just you're mirroring what was done on the other side. So on peg 43, you're going to put a or actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the end, you're going to put this other color in. And the reason why I say 6 from the end is if you're doing a larger blanket, then you would need to do that. And then the next peg is going to be the main color here. So this happens to be peg 44 here, or 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th one over from the end. See how these two are opposite each other in coloring? Okay, so you're going to see why that happens later. But now we need to cast on. So go ahead and place your stitch markers and pause the video and then come back when you're ready. Okay, we're going to double E-wrap cast on. I'm going to make a slip knot and put that on. And I like to go and put this on my beginning peg here so that it doesn't go anywhere, especially with the double E-wrap cast on, because it can be a little fidgety for that first stitch or two. Okay. So now that I've got that on there, I'm just going to wrap around this peg twice and knit over. Okay, and I'm going to go to the left, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to have this finish at peg 1 over here, and I'm not going to connect them, and I'll work all of my row 1s to the right and my row 2s to the left, and that's because I'm right-handed and I want to be able to purl going back towards the left. So if you're left-handed, start at peg 1 and go all the way around and just do the opposite of what I'm doing. It's a mirrored project, so it doesn't matter if you are going in one direction or the other, but you are going back and forth. So double E-wrap cast on and pause your video, and I'll see you when you're done with that. We're ready to begin row 1 of the garter stitch border. So we're going to go to the right and knit all the stitches in row 1, and then on the way back we're going to purl. So in order to make that, we're going to U-wrap, go around in the direction you're going towards, and lift the bottom over the top, and that's knitting 1. Then go around the front and to the back again and knit that, and that is a U-wrap stitch. Notice how it goes all the way around and to the back, and then it's giving you enough slack for this stitch to be loose. If you happen to hold it out in the front a little too tight, or just to the back and not all the way, your stitch will be looser, will be tighter actually. So if you need to loosen it up a little bit, you can do that. So continue going all the way around, and then meet me back when you're at this step, and we will learn how to purl. You're ready for row 2 of your border. Now we are on the right side all the time on a loom, so when you're converting a pattern over from a needle pattern, the wrong side, in this case all the even rows, are going to be knit in the opposite. So if you see a knit on there, you're going to want to purl for on the loom for the right side. So in order to purl, we're going to put our working yarn below the stitch here and pull up and make a new loop. Pull off the old loop and put the new one on. So we're going to do that again. Go through the existing loop, pull a new loop up, so like a picking a purl up off the ocean, lift that off of the peg and put it on, put the new loop on the peg. So go ahead and continue purling all the way around until you get back to the other side, okay? And then that will complete one set of garter ridge. You want to do 4 sets of garter ridge for 8 rows. And then when we meet back up, you will have that done. Now you will learn how to do row 1 and then row 2 from me in the main stitch pattern, but I'm going to go ahead and work up the first 18 rows because it's a 20 row amount, and you'll be able to see a longer amount. It'll actually be clearer, and I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Okay, you're ready to start your chevron pattern. I've gone ahead and worked up to this row here. This is actually on the 18th row because I want you to see what it looks like from behind. And now we're going to see what these stitch markers are going to do for us, and it's going to make more sense now that I have more knitting on here. So we're going to work these first 4 stitches, and these are going to be knit. So row 1 is we're going to knit the first 4 stitches, and I'm using a U-knit stitch. Make sure to keep all these a consistent gauge, and then we're going to knit the first stitch. Now this is where the asterisk starts, so imagine there's an asterisk on your written pattern here. So this is going to be knit 1, and then when you see this second color of stitch marker, this is going to be a yarn over. So these blue stitch markers on mine are a knit stitch, And then these are right here are a yarn over. So I'm going to have to make space for this. So I have to move some stitches over. My stitch count is not going to change. However, I'm going to be knitting 2 stitches together, but then I'm making a yarn over, which is an increase. So in order to do that, I need to move some stitches around in advance. So see where I have these 2 stitches together here, these 2, what I'm calling a knit stitch. These are actually going to be a knit 2 together. You can also, again, put on a double rubber band here that goes around both of them. This is going to be 2 knit 2 together stitches. So I'm going to put my 10th stitch, this is the 10th one here, just for this purpose I've got a label for you. So we're going to move this on over, okay, and so now this is on top, and now we can move these stitches over so I can knit these together. But before I do that, I want to show that because this one just moved on top, I'm going to have the same direction go. So I want this stitch, when I knit these 2 together, I want this stitch to be on top. So in order to do that, I just move this over. Once I knit this stitch, then I'll move it over and I'll show you what I mean. Let's go ahead and do this now, and then I'll set up the next 8 stitches or so. We're going to move these stitches over. So we're going to move what's on number 9 to number 10 and so on until we have that freed up space. Okay, and now we're going to do a yarn over. Now you can do an E-wrap yarn over or one that's held in the front. The E-wrap will have more of the gap, and the only way you can tell if you want more of a space, see this space down here? See how it's stretchier here and not so much? This is going to be more of the look that you're going for, and I only know that I like to do the yarn over I'm going to show you on this particular pattern because the other one is just way too big of a hole that's created with an E-wrap. So we're just going to hold it into the front, and then we can work this next stitch. But because we're not E-wrapping this stitch, we actually can do both at the same time. It's a kind of a quick step here. So we're going to yarn over at the same time of actually knitting this next stitch. Okay, and now we're going to take the yarn in front of the next one and keep going. So we're knitting, the pattern calls the knit 4. So we knit 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now it says knit 2 together, and then it says twice. So we're going to knit 2 together, which is that first parentheses, okay, and then we want to knit these 2 together because it says twice. So whatever's in the parentheses we do twice. Now we can just move that over to this spot here and then kind of pull on that extra little slack. So now that's exactly where it needs to be, but we have this gap here. Well, I don't want a yarn over here, so I'm just going to start moving my stitches over. So this will be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our pattern wants us to knit 4 here. Okay, so that's exactly what we're going to do. And you can also knit them and then move them after you knit them. So if you'd rather do that, and I'll show you here in a second how to do that. And now we've got our yarn over. See, it's already free and ready. So we can yarn over, okay? And then that ends the next, this is where the asterisk would fall, and then we repeat, okay? So starting at 18, this is just going to repeat. So we can go ahead though and look at that next one, which is a knit 1. So I like to do them at the same time. So I do yarn over and then knit. See how that works out? And then this needs a yarn over, right? So then we just repeat our process again. We're just going to move these on over. So I need to move over to my knit 2. And then I move this knit 2 over. I do them at the same time so I remember. And then these all need to move. And now that I have this open, now I can work these 2 stitches together where I yarn over and then I knit the next stitch all in one motion. And then we knit 4, 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, that was 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we knit 2 together. All right. And then I'm going to teach you how to do this other way to do it. So we can come over to this next peg here and knit these together. But we want to make our yarn go behind this empty peg and wrap the one where I'm knitting 2 together lifting the bottom two over the top, and then we just move it. Okay, pull on our strand here, and then we're going to work these next ones. So we're going to count off 4 and move them. So we got 1, move it, oops, 2, 3, and 4. And then we move that. And then you just continue to repeat where you've got a yarn over and then knit. And then start moving your stitches again. So you're going to complete this whole row 1, and then I'll meet you back up for row 2. Okay, we're on row 2, and we want to make the wrong side row that's on a needle pattern into a right side row for the loom. To do this, all the knit stitches become purl and all the purls become knit. So we're going to take these first 4 stitches, and instead of knit 4, we're going to purl 4. So put your working yarn below the loop that's on that first peg, make a new loop, pull the old one off, and put the new one on. So we purl 4, so that's, there was 1, now 2, 3, and 4, and then we stop at this first marker here. This is where we start making our unit stitch. The yarn goes above, and we make sure and get plenty of slack in here and make that knit stitch here. Make sure and it keeps nice and loose so that when you get to your next row, which is a repeat of row 1, then you will have loose enough stitches to move around. So you're going to continue along, go all the way around your loom until you get to these stitches here where you've got this last stitch marker. So knit up into this last stitch marker and then purl the last 4 stitches, and that completes a row 2. Once you have 20 in this set here, not counting the rows here for the beginning, the 8 rows. Once you have 20 rows in your main stitch pattern and you're ending, you go all the way around and you end after a row 2. Stop here, and we're going to add in our yarn. All right, keep going, and we'll see you soon. All right, let's change color. We're going to snip off our yarn at about 6 to 8 inches and get the new one. Lay this tail on the inside, and I'm going to show you how to join these later on. Actually, we're just going to leave them loose inside. So I have a video that's actually from the needle video of this particular pattern, showing how to weave in the beginning and end tails and also weaving in these joins. This way you have a nice join. Now if you want to put a knot in, that's fine. If you want to start with a slip knot, that's fine too. I don't like having a knot in my work. So you're welcome to try those. I'm just not going to teach that here. So you're just going to wrap this around, put the tail on the left side and wrap around the working yarn and knit that first stitch and then keep going. So go to the next stitch, wrap around, knit that next stitch. It's that simple. And we're just going to continue on just as you did for repeating of rows 1 and 2 until you have 10 sets of rows 1 and 2, which is also going to be 20 rows total. So you're going to keep working on that and then switch over in the same technique to contrast C. So this is contrast B in the slate. We already did the cream, and then we'll make it with the pumpkin for contrast C. Now the pattern that I did before is going to have pink as my C and then this lavender as the B, and then we had this purple in the beginning. So you're going to see 2 different ones on this video, and that's okay. Keep going, and then I'll meet you back up for when you're finished with this, and we're going to finish off the edging to match and bind off. See you soon. Hey, I have worked my stitches to where I have 20 rows of contrast A, 20 of B, and 20 of C, and I'm ready to match my starting edge here. Now, if you're making the larger blanket, you would just keep on going. Of course, you're going to have more pegs in your loom. This is just a small sampler. Or you could make them in strips and then sew them together and have this nice little garter stitch edge on in between each panel. So this is what it looks like. You can see that it's got these really nice, pretty big yarn overs where it begins, and then this is where the knit two together are coming together to make that starting chevron, and then where you've got the yarn overs and knit one and the yarn overs together, and so that's what creates that wave, that chevron or ripple wave. So I want you to notice though, to see how your stitches are really stretched up here, but as they come down, it's going to relax. And this looks just like the knit version. Here is the knit version here. Okay, oops, that's the back. Okay, here is the knit version here. It's the same. So we are going to finish this off. What you want to do is make your knit row, and we're going to go all the way across. And we're going to knit to the right, and then purl back to the left, and repeat that 4 times because you want to have 8 rows, and then I'll meet you back for the bind off. Pause your video and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, we're back and we've got all the garter stitch rows done. We want to bind off, which is take it off the loom. So we're going to knit the first stitch as we would normally start the row, knit the second stitch, okay, and then you're going to move the second stitch over to the first and then work the stitch. So we're not wrapping any new yarn there. And then we just move what's on that first one over to the empty peg number 2. And then we start renumbering these sort of in our head. We forget the first stitch knitting because it's already been knit once before. So now we're just, the process is to repeat knit peg 2, that stitch there, and move it over to peg 1 and work the stitch, move the stitch, knit the new peg 2, move it to 1, work the stitch, move the stitch, and continue going until you've got the entire row done. I'll meet you back for that last peg. Okay, I'm at the last 2 stitches, and I've just worked this one and moved it over, and now we're going to work on this last stitch, move it over, work it, and then now we're going to cut our yarn and then just pull this on through. And then now we can weave in our ends, and stay tuned for weaving in the ends. It'll have it with the other colors, but it's the same technique. All right. So once you want to join our yarns together, so we flip onto the reverse, and I've threaded my needle through, and I want to join these 2 and make sure that they're not loose. Let's see how this is loose right now. So we just left these kind of cut and running free here. So we're going to take our section, this is our new yarn, and I'm going to go around these little stitches here. See that one there? I'm going to just go back up through here because it's coming down through this section, and I'm going to go down through here, and so it's going to match up with this stitch, and then I can actually take it up into here through this one and go around here. See that? And then we can go around that stitch again here, and then go back up through this purple and take the lilac going all the way around. See how we're making this sort of zigzag, like old-fashioned candy, zigzag candy. And you just take all your stitches around through. I've got one that's split off, so I'll just take that through with the needle. But you get the idea. And so if your yarn's a little short like mine is here, you can just put your needle on through there, work that on through, and pull it out. And so I'll just work this entire thing through and then not even worry about trimming that off unless I have a little bit, because this is a very short piece here. And so now I want to take this other piece here and weave this in. Okay. And so now I'm going to take it down through here and go around my stitches and do the same kind of thing. And go around. And see how it's just mirroring that same stitch pattern that's going on. And so you're not actually seeing any extra line of color. And on the other side, it's not making any changes either. So you're just going to continue on, and then when you're ready, you'll snip off that yarn And you're done with the weaving tails. Finish weaving in all the rest of them and I'll join you back in a minute. Okay, I want to talk about how to finish this stitch here. This is the very last one where we cut it off. And if you're not sure about what it's supposed to look like when you finish this off, take a look at the side of your knitting. And so depending upon what you did, so if you're knitting with a slip stitch or you're knitting and working all the ends, you're going to have it roll over different, and these stitches will overlap each other differently. So you can treat this end stitch different. So if I want to mirror what's going on here, then I can take my yarn that's coming out the end this way and go around this little loop here and then pull it in, and it matches this edge quite nicely and pulls that around. So it has that same detail. See how it's all masked over? And if I had it to where I needed to create like a chain loop, okay, I can always, like especially on a hat and things where I have to match the edge, I can go through this beginning stitch here and then make it go around in a loop like this. So where I create a loop on the end here, okay, and see how that pulls that all the way tighter in. So in this case, it still looks nice. So I can play with it either direction, and then I want to work my stitches in so that it's all finished. You wouldn't just cut it off at that point. And then we're going to work our way around. I like to go towards the back and just get my stitches all the way to the back until I get into here. Okay, so where I can play with these stitches and it's easier to work around. So what I like to do is go through one of these stitches here so I can find this little curve and go around the stitches there and find how my stitches lay out and follow that natural line. Okay, and so see how it hides? So we're going to go back up through and find an area where I can pop over and do that again. And if I missed it, I can actually go up through here on this edge and work it that way. But in this case, I'm saying I look at it and go, okay, well, I think I need to go a little further down so I can go back and forth between these two rows. And so we're going to go all the way down to this row. Okay. And then now I'm going to work back and forth between this row and this row. And we're going to do this zigzag. So I'm going to go around this stitch here and then come back up here. Okay. And then we're going to go around this stitch here and then come back up here and then go around this one. So go around, come back up through this area, and we're just zigzagging through. And see how you can't tell anything is happening? It's because this matches the main color, and because we're just going back and forth and matching all the stitches, you're not going to notice that extra amount of yarn. And it's going to be very invisible to other people looking at it to study your work. They won't be able to tell where you did it. And it won't be coming out. And you can also go back on top of your stitches and go the opposite way and lock that back in. Okay, so now I'm going back over my stitches, and then I just need to cut that off, and I'm done.
I hope you enjoyed knitting your Ripple and Ridge knit blanket today. Please tag us in social media with a photo of what you made. On behalf of Yarnspirations and Good Knit Kisses, I'm your host, Kristen, wishing you happy knitting.